Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Strengthcast. I'm your new host.
That is a good voice.
You may have done that before, mate.
Many times.
Just don't forget it's the Warrior Strengthcast.
The Warrior Strengthcast.
Yeah,
All
get
right.
it
Do it
right,
again.
mate.
Do it again.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Warrior Strengthcast. I'm your new host, Hays Daewoud. Can I be the new host?
Hired.
There you
Just
are.
for the intros. That's it.
So welcome.
Hi guys.
How you going? So today on the podcast we have Hays and Daewoud and the legend, the man himself, Mick Spinks.
Woo!
All right, thanks for coming, Mick.
That's my pleasure.
So we wanted to. Hays was talking to me. He wanted to interview Mick, and I said, "Well, why don't we just do it on the podcast? Because I'd like to interview Mick as well."
There's been a lot of excitement around interviewing Mick in the gym this week. I will say that. Everyone who we've said, we're having Mick Spinks on the podcast, like, whoa, Mick Spinks. And just before we start, I actually promised Treco that I would try BJJ because I still haven't been, and this day exactly was marked in my calendar to go and do it.
Oh.
And then Shannon said, we're getting Mick Spinks in to do the podcast, so we're not going to BJJ. And I was like, but I promised Trek ages ago, and he's like, he'll understand, it's Mick Spinks. So just laying that out there.
Yes.
Treco will understand.
Yeah.
He's a good man.
He is a good man.
Yeah.
All right. So Mick was my kickboxing coach, and obviously one of my early mentors. So it's great to have him on here and go through it. And also Hays, I lecture with him. Work for his company, Australian Combat and Exercise.
Yes, very exciting.
And we just have a new course, the
Technical lifting.
technical lifting course, and he also runs boxing courses
Yep.
and kickboxing courses for the fitness industry, certified by ESSA and Fitness Australia and Australian Strength and Conditioning Association. And Hays was also one of my kickboxing coaches as well.
Yeah,
Was he a mentor?
Yes, he was.
I
Or
was
was
a-
he just an
He
arsehole?
still is a mentor.
I started coaching Shannon when I was 11 years old. He's come a long way since then.
You're only 15 now, though.
So my introduction to Double Dragon Mixed Gym came, I don't know what year it was, probably be around maybe 2000, I think, something like that.
Probably
2000,
was, yeah.
2001. I've been training weights for a couple of years, and I'd been doing some boxing with a guy for about 6 months, and thought I was okay, and we always wanted to go down to Double Dragon, but like a lot of gyms, like especially even with our powerlifting gym and stuff, a lot of people have sort of a stigma associated with going. But I had a mate and he said, well, let's go down to Double Dragon together and we'll check it out. And I said, sweet. So we went, and I stayed. We did the session, and he never came back. Just he was lazy, but he'd always tell everyone that he was a kickboxer. He did one kickboxing class, as everyone does. But I stayed in there, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Mick basically tore me apart on my technique, whatever technique I learnt. Hey, get out of it. Was not that great. I was standing wrong way. I was standing southpaw. And then, so anyway, I did the kickboxing lesson. I went, well, that last 6 months was a waste of time. Well, not a waste of time, but like I wasn't learning what I was supposed to learn, and I was really excited to sort of learn more and delve into all the technical aspects of it. Was really great. It sort of what really drove me to learn more from Mick.
Yep. Well, my happiness in martial arts is to teach the art, and I was lucky enough to learn that art very well for some good coaches in my time, like way back. I started training in 1970, went through the process of starting martial arts and being a beginner and the same sort of thing, and I loved it, as Shannon took his direction and Hays took his direction. My direction was definitely martial arts. It's been my passion throughout my life, my journey, you might say. Starting off with the karate, got my black belt, went to some competitions for ippon, like point sparring, that sort of thing, and got disqualified for that because a little bit of excessive contact.
What's that mean, excessive contact?
That means the guy got swept and went to the ground, and
you stomped on his head?
I didn't stomp on his head.
That's what I call excessive contact.
And they called it excessive contact, and I was disqualified, and I came back from Brisbane and went, you know what, this is probably not going to suit me. Continued with the karate for a little while, but then headed to, I believe that there had to be more. You know, it was, we're talking about in the 70s here, so there wasn't much martial arts around.
Yeah. It was mainly karate back in the 70s.
It was mainly karate. There was a splattering of kung fu, but not much, and I don't think it was that good. It was a bit flowery sort of kung fu. So when I came back, I continued the karate for a little while, but then I went, what else can I, you know, what other direction can I take? And I'd met Sifu Chan, who also was a karate practitioner. The style had bought out, and he came back to Australia and opened up his kung fu school in Broadway in the city.
Yep.
And at that time, I got a divorce from my first wife and was living in the eastern suburbs, so it was pretty handy.
You married martial arts, basically.
I married martial arts and my second wife. Yeah. and she was very. I'm very grateful because she allowed me to do the martial arts and follow that journey.
Yeah.
Started the kung fu as a beginner. After about a year or so, they had some contact fighting. I loved the kung fu. Sifu Chan definitely gave me a new direction in martial arts and opened my eyes, and I was bright-eyed and excited about learning this new style, and his father was the real deal, and he taught the kids, and it was a great style, an amazing style, which I love to this day. We got involved with contact fighting. The contact fighting was pretty raw, but they put boxing gloves on us. To shorten up a long story, I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, and it suited me because the ippon, the point sparring, was more fast twitch. I was more of an endurance athlete, and so fighting that way was suitable for me. Yeah. And I realised through that first tournament, as we were discussing before, you need to be fit for this stuff, you know. Yeah. So I started on that journey as well, and you know we can talk about that a little bit later, I'm sure, in association with that. But generally, moving through a quick overview. They put boxing gloves on us, so I started to find someone who could teach me a bit of boxing. We went out to La Perouse to a guy named Jimmy Withers, who was teaching a couple of Aussie champs at the time, and didn't do a lot of boxing with him, but we did some training with him, and wow, I realised how fit these guys were. Yeah. And that showed me a direction. You know, you've got to learn what you need. And these guys would run over to the golf course. I was knackered by the time I got to the golf course. And they were doing 18 holes with 20 push-ups and 20 sit-ups at each hole. And Bridgie and I, who's one of my good friends and training partners, we were had it. We got back there. We're lucky to get back there, and but opened my eyes, and I went, yeah, okay, this is how you do it for this, you know, and the journey started. So went through the kung fu. At the time, Bob Jones came to Sydney, started doing some kickboxing tournaments up at Dovey's gym. I had a few fights up at Dovey's gym. They were just midweek fights, and you know, they matched us up, and we just started that journey on the fighting. And I was having a fight, training for grading, having a fight, training for a grading, and going through the kung fu and loving it, you know. Yeah.
And that's where I've been told by Bob Jones himself many years ago, where Mick created his name as a fighter. You started beating Bob Jones and their crew were the kickboxers of the time. then little Spinksy with his mo started beating them. And one thing Bob said is, and I've only met Bob once, and he said, I consider Mick as one of the pioneers in Australian kickboxing. And only a few people back then were adding boxing to their training. Bruce Lee was one of the first to his Wing Chun, but then years later, down here, Bob Jones and you guys, and then everyone started doing it.
Yeah, and Benny the Jet.
Benny the Jet
was doing that style of fighting, and when I met Benny, it appeared to me that we were doing a very similar style. We'd come from our martial arts background, incorporated that in. I learnt the Thai style of kicking off Sifu Chan, which was a big benefit to me.
We've all felt that Thai style of kicking. That was part of the initiation.
Many a time.
Kicking more so with the shin. A very effective style of kicking, which Hays learnt very well.
But I think you guys tweaked it a bit, because I know in Muay Thai, or from some of the systems I've seen or trained in, they point the toe. Yeah. You always kept the foot at a natural position, pulled back to get that nice sharp action. Where did that come from?
Well, it's that common sense factor. It also activates the muscles in your shin. Yeah. Up the sides of your shin, tibialis, which supports
tibialis anterior.
It supports that shin bone a lot more.
Yeah.
And if you extend your foot, you hurt your foot.
Yeah.
If you tuck it back, you learn how not to kick with that part.
Yeah.
You don't want to kick with that part.
Yeah.
You kick them in the head with that part, but legs, body, arms, because good kickers will kick your arms and hurt you. Kick your arm against a leg.
Yeah. Good old catching the elbow, eh?
Yeah. It was a transition of learning.
You wrote an article many years ago on the benefits of boxing for martial artists, and I've got it here actually.
There was actually six issues of it.
It's really
can't be too
really
good a boxer.
Positive being a hoarder, because you don't throw anything away. So I found this in my collection.
Yeah.
And what was the name of the article? Can you remember, Mick?
You can't be too good a boxer to be a kickboxer.
Here it is for those watching. Mick had a very big black mo.
Yeah.
You can't be too good a boxer to be a kickboxer. This is evident in how the likes of Raymond Decker, Hector Pena, Rob Kamen, Benny Orquidez, Dennis Alexio, Ernesto Hurst, Stang Longanides, Adam Watt and Grant Barker incorporate many boxing angles and combinations to effectively complement their kickboxing style. So some big names in that list, and one of them is your boys.
Yeah.
The Bomber.
The Bomber.
So do you want to elaborate on that? What was this series about?
Well, editorials in magazines were very popular at that time. That was the way we got our message across. Now it's via these sort of mediums.
Yep.
But now we would do it on a podcast, then we would do it in a magazine. So it was a slow sort of procedure to do it, and they were always, come on, we want to print, we want to go to print, we've got to get this, can you get me some more pictures? But, it was a good thing to do, and I enjoyed doing it, the situation is that I'd learnt a good style of boxing, a European style of boxing from Istvan, who you know quite well, who's still around now doing it, and mate, he was a master craftsman. I learnt the art of boxing from him, and I don't see the art of boxing taught a lot in Australia.
Yeah.
There's a lot of boxing, and there's some good boxers. However, the art of boxing, which is the way Istvan taught it, was very similar to the way I'd learnt martial arts. You learn a formula, and you practice that formula, and you develop that formula, and it becomes a motor pattern which you need to develop for any sport. It doesn't matter whether it's lifting, hitting the ball, or
that's right.
or boxing or whatever. It becomes a motor pattern which you develop. So, it made sense to me. And when Istvan, he left Hungary and he went to Germany because he didn't like the communism at that time, so he did a runner. And after Germany, he came to Australia. When he came to Australia, he was a European junior champion, and very very skilled, and had trained under Laszlo Papp, who had won 3 gold medals, consecutive Olympics in the 30s, who was a, very extremely, proficient boxer, came from an amazing boxing team in Hungary, and came to Australia, and nobody wanted him as a boxing coach. So he was very frustrated. He said, I keep going to these gyms and they won't give me a job. I just want to teach boxing. Like my passion's martial arts, his was boxing.
Yeah.
So he said, I think they were generally intimidated with his skill. They were the coaches, and he went there and showed them what he could do, and they went, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So he came into Double Dragon, and, he said, well, I want to teach boxing. And I said, oh, yeah, what do you got? And he showed me, and I went, looks all right. Yeah.
Not bad.
So, in essence...
Did you kick him?
Not on the first day.
I didn't kick him initially, but in the end, he knew I could kick. So we had a mutual respect. But in the end, I said, I had the gym at Kingsford, which opened in 1983. And he said, can I teach boxing here? And I said, well, we'll give it a go. We'll see if you can build a client base and teach boxing. And it'd be appropriate. I believe in boxing. And he did that. And we built a great relationship. He built a good team, and he had a lot of fun doing it. I had a lot of fun. And I learnt his art of boxing, the art of boxing. And it was great. Yeah. Like Costa Zoo would have learnt, all those people who learnt, that disciplined art of boxing, and that calculated. So it was great, yeah.
So what's your opinion now? Muay Thai has grown big time in Australia, and classic Muay Thai, they use their hands, they punch, but not like the form of boxing you taught us in the kickboxing and Muay Thai style. So what I'm trying to say is I see there's a gap. Classic Muay Thai and the stuff you taught us, the Dutch style, using hands with knees and elbows. To me, that's an obvious strength. Like, why wouldn't every Muay Thai practitioner do boxing properly and incorporate it?
I think eventually they will, because they're both fine arts. The thing with the Muay Thai practitioners is they start very young. So if you start when you're 5 or 6 years old, you've got to get good at something if you have a reasonable coach. But they generally punch and kick and come into a grappling situation and that sort of thing, rather than, I see the boxing, the benefits of being a reasonable boxer incorporated into your Muay Thai would allow you to enter into those positions with being more calculated. And I think the long term, I think that'll happen. And I think you'll find the Europeans are already doing it. Anthony Manning has just come back from the junior championships in Thailand. He got a gold medal, as a matter of fact, with one of his young girls, and which is pretty damn good. And the one thing he said to me is that the rest of the world are looking fantastic. We're a bit behind in this country.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, but they have a lot of opportunity for competition over there, and a lot of the people who go into the world championships and things like that, they're fighting in Waco, they're fighting in kickboxing, they're fighting in... Whereas here it's, the Muay Thai people are just really hardcore Muay Thai people. They just haven't got that open mindset. Double Dragon has. Shane and Rowan are putting the guys into everything. As I said, I'm going down and cornering some of the guys in boxing, and some of them are doing my boxing classes at Double Dragon, and they're enjoying it, but they're building that formula which they can build into their there's many things in boxing that I see shortfalls in.
That's one of the biggest takeaways that I got from you is learning the art of everything and taking a multiple disciplinary approach to your training, as far as don't leave any stone unturned.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's,
absolutely. And that's why I signed up there.
Yeah, and that's I was lucky enough to meet, I guess it's lucky or karma or whatever it is, to meet Istvan. And the same thing happened with who we were chatting before about Treco.
Yeah.
You know, I met Treco. They come over the gym, him and Alex, and you know, we had a mutual relationship then. Treco became my ground coach, where I eventually got my black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I was his stand-up coach, originally his conditioning coach, but then Shannon, the master, took over from there, which was great.
We had to sneak it into him. Treco didn't like doing any weights originally.
No.
We had to sneak in strength training to get him strong.
Yeah.
Throwing some farmers walks into a conditioning circuit and some
sneak it in.
push-ups and stuff, and that was. But now he believes in the benefits of actually
he's
being
good
strong.
now. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
He'll come in and sometimes he'll just come in and do his weights, and sometimes he'll get down and set his timer and get on the ground and do a whole bunch of different things, and Otis absolutely loves it because Otis is like, someone's on the ground, I'm going to wrestle him. Gets thrown around, it's good.
So that was the benefit of my martial arts journey, is making friends who we had mutual arrangements with. You know, went to the UFC twice with Treco, and it was amazing. They're bucket list things, you know, like they're amazing, and you know, it's people. It's people in life.
It always is.
That's what makes life wonderful, you know.
Yeah.
So how did you train back in the old days?
In the old days, mate, look.
I remember there's one saying that always stuck with me. It's like, you always used to say to people, you're training hard, but how hard are you really training?
Yeah. and I must admit, over the last sort of probably 10 or 12 years, I've learned to understand that a lot better, because I like understanding things and learning more. And it was a bit wild and woolly back in the days, but it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. I used to do a lot more running, not a lot of strength. However, I'll add something to that in a moment, you know. But we used to do, I do interval training on Monday, short sprint walk. I do sprint training on Wednesday, which varied. It was longer and got shorter as I got closer to the fight.
Yeah.
Shorter intervals, bursts, and then a timed run on Friday.
Yeah.
So that was predominantly
covering all the energy systems.
Yes, that's right. And after a while, I used to like incline training. When I was working as a builder, I used to go out about 6 o'clock in the morning there was in Randwick, where I used to live, there was a 17-story building, and I used to do the stairwell of that 5 times, come home, have a shower and go to work. And that I think if you've got strong legs, they hold you up better, they're the biggest muscle groups, so they get you fitter. Those sort of things, I sort of had those generalisations towards, and thought that's gonna make me work harder, and got very fit. Going back a little bit and reflecting on my life, I was originally an earth moving mechanic, a field service engineer, so we used to have to go out and lift heavy shit in the bush and take big tyres off and flip them over and stand them up and knock out pins and from track machines and things like that, and that might take 6 or 7 hours. I think that was the foundation.
100%.
You know, like I was doing strongman training for work. I think that was the foundation to me being successful. You know, if I was an office worker, I don't think I would have had the success I would because of that that integration of that into, then I got fit. But I was always...
Your base was there.
My base was established, and once you get that foundation, you can bring it back, you know? So
I think that's probably one thing a lot of people forget, is that work these days is very sedentary compared to what you guys used to do. And as far as even in the building trade now, like a lot more stuff is obviously a lot more manual labour back then to now that you got a lot of machines that do stuff. So you build a lot of requisite strength anyway, just in your day-to-day life, and then the conditioning on top just made you hard as nails essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I was until I was sort of mid-20s. I was an earth moving mechanic, and then I became. I hated that, so I became.
So you fought quite late in your career.
I didn't have my first full contact fight, which was with the Kung Fu Federation originally, till probably 25, 26. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't start that contact fighting until then. Yeah.
And did you love it? Because from the videos I saw, you were getting in there, mate. Looked like you're having a ball, throwing those big hooks.
Yeah, I was definitely always scared. When I stopped being scared, I sort of had my last fights around, probably just before mid-30s.
Wow.
And, I wasn't as excited then, so I stopped knocking people out, you know. I think that adrenaline and that fear factor is an important aspect. It's how you manage it, I think, that's important, you know. I think you've got to have a bit of adrenaline, you've got to have a bit of excitement, you've got to have a bit of fear. You know, the fight or flight's got to be there.
Yeah.
Was there any fight that stands out for you? Was the hardest fight? You've had a few.
Oh, definitely. Payat Penchai. The Thai, we travelled to, you know, Chuck Fay said, "Oh, you want to go to Hong Kong and fight?" And I said, "Oh, yeah."
Have a crack?
Have a crack, yeah. And so we trained a team up. I was one of the people. I used to do a lot of conditioning for his fighters because he was a traditional martial arts trainer then, more so. And so we'd do our exercise things, you know. We'd do 30 seconds of 6 exercises, bang them out, you know, and try and get as many as we could in each exercise, that sort of thing. We were integrating those fundamental things in, you know. And so we were training that and then doing our running and that sort of thing, you know, the sprints, the incline sprints and all that sort of stuff. And off we went to Hong Kong. And I had a torn cartilage just before that, which I couldn't run. So before I had the hardest fight in my life, I couldn't hardly walk. So, but yeah, that's only a flesh wound, you know. So we still went over there, and I ended up fighting Payat Penchai, who was a Lumpini champion at the time, and fought all through Europe. He'd had 185 fights.
Oh my God!
I was having my 9th.
Wow! Wow!
Not a mismatch.
Fearless. So there was a saviour because he kicked me hard. It hurt. I limped around Hong Kong for a few days after the fight, but I did have a draw. It was the only draw in my career, and I feel proud to have drawn with him.
That's cool.
The benefit I had was it was a Sandow match, which
under Chinese rules.
Under Chinese rules, because it was in Hong Kong. It was on a platform, not in a boxing ring.
Okay.
So it was, as I said, it was Sandow, which allows you to throw.
Oh yeah.
So when he came in for the grapple, I threw him. So I shoulder threw him, and I didn't just throw him, I landed on him. So I kept seeing him going.
There's a classic photo of, it could be him on the platform, and he's about to get up and you're loading up at his head.
No, that was the World Kung Fu Championships.
That's another one.
That was in.
I love that photo.
That was in Malaysia. Yeah, that
shows another side of you.
It does show another side of me. Yeah. The fear factor of alive and well. But so that was enabled me to score good points there. He kicked me hard. I kicked him in the leg. Didn't seem to make any difference, so I thought that was a bad idea. I was really swinging hard trying to bang him in the chin, but I didn't sort of get some of those. But my saviour was that I was able to go the 5 rounds, and I threw him a lot and landed on him a lot, which scored back for me, and they drew the fight. You know? Yeah.
So how many fights did you have, and how many wins?
I had 28. 27 wins and that one draw.
That's unreal.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was, we went to the World Championships in 1980 in Malaysia, where they had countries from all over the world. England, New Zealand had a team, America had a team, all the Asian countries had teams, not Thailand. I don't think they were into Sandow.
Yeah.
And so you'd land in a town. They'd set it up and off you'd go. You'd have a fight. If you won, you went to the next town. Off you go. And then I fought in Penang in the in the first round, and I knocked out the Singapore champion in the first round, which was, I was very nervous. It was my first international fight. It was a big open arena. They had a big opening show and everything like that, and it was just packed, you know. And so I pinged a good win in the first bout, and then the second one was the champion of Malaysia, and I knocked him out in the second round, and then I fought the champion of Hong Kong in the final back in Kuala Lumpur.
Wow.
And won the.
It's very cool.
Won the World Championship. Yeah.
Very good.
Undefeated. One draw.
All right, Hays, tell us a bit about your journey in how you met Mick Spinks and how you came to Double Dragon.
Well, I first met Mick on the cover of Blitz Martial Arts magazine, and the cover said, "Real life blood sport, Mick Spinks," and I'm like, "Fuck, real life blood sport, like Jean-Claude Van Damme." But then I opened the cover, and this guy doesn't look like Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's got a mo and a mullet in the photo.
That's the Aussie version.
But the image of the platform, like in the movie Bloodsport, was being used on the title and on the cover.
It was quite impressionable.
I was in Melbourne in Christmas '97, and my uncle had a VHS of UFC 3. I was watching UFC 3. All the styles were basically fighting each other, and this one unique style in particular was Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Have you heard of that before? Anyway, I had it at the time, and I got really excited when I saw Gracie. People would come and try and bash him, he'd take them down and choke them out or put them in an armbar. And then my uncle George, who was also, I considered a pioneer in Australian martial arts, I was doing karate at the time. I'd been doing karate all my life, like from 5 years old at the Southern PCYC, and I started losing interest in the martial arts, and I said, I want to do the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he said, look, maybe you should get your striking better first. And we opened the back of the Blitz Martial Arts magazine, and at the back there was Double Dragon Martial Arts. There was an ad there, and it had Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, and freestyle martial arts. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll just go do some kickboxing or freestyle martial arts, because Uncle George and my uncles did Zendu-Kai freestyle, so that was appealing. But in my head, I thought, I'm just going to go Jiu-Jitsu anyway. I won't tell them that. So I went there. It was straight after Chrissy, so January '98, I think it was, and there was only a few people in the Jiu-Jitsu class. You and Bridgie.
Yeah,
and
hardcore.
And you just got your blue belts.
Yeah.
And I went on the floor, and I thought, I don't really like this very much. And around, there was the kickboxing class, and they were just hitting the pads, and I thought, I'm gonna go do that instead. And but before that, I called Mick, and before I went into Double Dragon, I called Mick and I had a chat with him, and he was really lovely, and he knew of my uncles, and he said, come and have a crack, and I did, and stayed there for a very long time, and it's probably been the best thing I ever did in my life. And one thing I loved about Double Dragon and Mick especially was the opportunity to, like, taught me how to become a coach, and that's what I do now. And the cross-training approach. When I used to travel for work in the corporate world, I'd train at different martial arts centres, and Mick was very receptive to that and never held me back. And so that's where I started the journey back in '97, '98.
Cool.
Yes, and Sifu Chan was always okay with me doing that. When I wanted to start Jiu-Jitsu, he never said, don't do that, you already can do all this,
Yeah.
this is the only thing you should do. And he was quite receptive to that, so yeah. And that was, to me, it was a progression from the stand-up, from the karate to the kung fu, to the boxing, to the kickboxing, to the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It complements one another.
Made sense. What about if they tackle you to the ground? A big guy, probably about Shannon's size, did it to me one day, and he says, what are you going to do now? And I said, nothing. So Bridgie and I, at the time, there wasn't much jiu-jitsu. It was around the time of UFC 1 and that sort of thing.
Right.
And there wasn't much jiu-jitsu around, so we used to bring John Will up from Melbourne once every 3 months, he'd teach us 6 moves and we'd try and destroy each other with them. And it was probably not the ideal way to start, We weren't learning the art. We were just killing each other on the ground, and some pretty hard characters there, as you'd know, Hays. And, but progressively we got better at it, got blue belts, got purple belts, got brown belts, and, I went on to get my black belt.
But it's amazing to see, we were doing BJJ before it was cool.
Before anybody knew what BJJ was,
And it's amazing now. It's probably one of the most popular martial arts in Australia, I think.
It's very functional,
Yeah, it's lots of people are doing it, and I will make a comeback one day again. Treco, one day.
Well, essentially, Mick's the original mixed martial artist, essentially. Just his progression in martial arts from the next one, learn more, progress further, and keep going. And that essentially is probably most great martial artist's journey anyway.
Yeah, that was my journey, and then you get a bit old to do it too hard, but you still have the knowledge, and definitely that's definitely what it was. And people used to ring me up all the time and say, "Oh, I want to do MMA," and I said, "Oh, sorry, I don't do MMA."
But you did create the freestyle system, which I graded in, and I still love that, and carried it on today.
I used to tell them that I do mixed martial arts.
Yeah,
I don't do MMA because I didn't really like the concept of MMA, of people coming from like wrestling backgrounds. I didn't have that respect that's built through the martial arts, and which I've loved through the journey. It had that just tough guy image, and you see it crop up every now and again on the TV. You see these guys who don't come from that ethical background, and they don't have that respect, and and it doesn't look good.
That's the great thing about martial arts, that it teaches you that discipline and respect, and I think that is probably one of the biggest things that's even just carried me through my career and just on my learning journey and everything like that is just that martial arts has really sort of basically driven that. The way that I approach exercise, as far as teaching people exercise, a lot of that's come from what I learned at Double Dragon, as far as being really technical about things and breaking things down and just progressing it on from there, and just the way that you obviously teach. The way Hayden used to teach is probably one of a big influence on me. He was like a Russian drill sergeant. Just take one thing and drill the crap out of it, and it works, and
it does.
I think that's sort of a great
discipline and respect that you get through the martial arts carries you into life. And Hays has mentioned that to me in the past, about in your corporate job that you had before you embarked on your
it got me through it. It got me through work, and it helped me become a people leader in the corporate world. Mick got me teaching at a very young age, and that's people management, isn't it? So that skill carried over, and I remember being very disgruntled with my job. I was working in a help desk, and I was travelling a lot, and a job came up to be a team leader, and Mick said, "As you did, have a go. You're leading here. You're teaching."
Yeah.
And I applied for the role, and I got it, and it changed my corporate career. And so the link and what it does for me as a person, and I'm quite calm. I'm quite disciplined, and it's all martial arts. And look, everyone's got their own journey, and could be any sport really, but for me it was martial arts, and it was, and being around such amazing martial artists at Double Dragon at the time, and some world class fighters, has also helped me progress and not get lazy with it.
There's definitely some
some hard noses.
Many a night getting bashed in that ring.
And that's the generations are back and back and back. We had a very strong team back in the the early 90s. We were dominant throughout the country with some of the fighters, just through those basic principles of hard training. We all the boys loved it, and we used to just get together with all the team.
Here's one on the front cover of another magazine. This is the best I've ever seen Ian Schaffer look.
Oh yeah, That's
if you're watching Ian, it's you getting kneed in the face.
Yeah,
wasn't he awesome?
Yeah.
Look, I really respect Ian. He was probably one of the most talented fighters that I've had the opportunity to work with.
Yeah.
He
punched me in the face thousands of times.
He punched a lot of people in the face, but he took a lot. He took a lot in the course, But look, he was he loved his life, and he'd sort of trickle off and disappear for a while and come back at 90.
Back in bad shape.
90 kilos. He'd come back at 90
Horrendous
kilos.
shape.
But he never talked back to me. He said, and he just did what I said. Jump, don't come down yet. And he never questioned it, and we always got him into shape, and that continued all the way, to the K1, travelling over on the plane. Can I eat this? Can I eat this? Can I? No. So he was very disciplined when he switched on, and amazing, and he was the fast twitch.
Yeah.
So we always had to adapt him to endurance because he struggled with the endurance. Yeah.
He was definitely fast twitch.
Definitely fast twitch. Yeah.
That was one of the good things too about Double Dragon. Like, you'd always look for sparring partners in any discipline. Just doesn't matter who they were. You bring them in and you get people to spar with them. And I remember people going, like boxers coming in and thinking, it's the chump kickboxer and Ian School and people, it just
all the top boxers. That's the only sparring we could get.
Yeah, you get these boxers, karate, whatever it was, because you just, at that time, there wasn't really that many mixed martial artists per se to spar with, so you just spar with whoever you could spar with. And
the standard, though,
awesome to watch.
In the freestyle system, you remember the purple belt, level 1?
Yeah.
And once you got to level 1, you could spar.
Yeah.
We had a couple of black belts come from another martial art. I won't mention where. I could, but I won't.
No need to.
No need to. All right, I will. No. So, and they'd come in, can we spar? Can we spar? And the cool thing is, before I'd spar them, I thought, first, spar the purple belts. And I'd get bashed by the purple belts, the level 1. That's the standard you created. Yeah. So
it was a high standard in the freestyle. The elementary guys who were working up through their grades. It was a good system. Yeah.
How about you, Loz? Have you punched or kicked before?
I have. I dabbled in a little bit of kickboxing in King's Cross.
Wow.
With Feng Che.
Feng Che.
Sorry. I knew I would get that wrong.
You just upset the master.
With Sifu. I don't know. I just always called him Sifu.
Let me translate.
Sifu Chan.
Yes, Sifu Chan. Sorry.
We nicknamed him Feng Shui.
Feng Shui.
That must have been what I was thinking of, Feng Shui. I did that. I think I probably did it between 6 months and a year, really. It was kind of just an after work thing. I was my first job out of TAFE. I worked in a corporate world, and a girl from there was like, I'm going to start going to kickboxing on a Thursday night, I think it was. Do you want to come with me? And so we went, and we would just get into it, and I loved it. It was great. It was really good fun.
Yeah, he was really a good coach too. He's a good, nice man.
Yeah, well, we would sometimes go for dinner with him because it was above the restaurants in Haymarket, so we'd go downstairs and have a meal afterwards sometimes. But it was really good, and I kind of dabbled in a little bit of Taekwondo when I was really young. Mm-hmm. So there was maybe one time when we did something, and he's like, "Oh, you've done martial arts before," and I was like, "Yes."
You noticed?
Yeah, exactly. That was it. And then, he was good, and the discipline of it was good. So it's definitely something that I do like. But then, just typical of me, I like everything and I want to do it all. So I'm a little bit scared about going down to train with Treco because everyone who I've mentioned it to, that most of them train there with him, and they're all like, "You're going to be hooked," and that'll be.
It's very addictive.
Hold on. Yeah. So there's a pattern here. You've promised me to come and train with me. You've promised Treco. How's this going to happen?
Well, I have done one course with you, which I promised I'd do, and I did.
That's not training.
I know. Well, when are you free? No. No, we will.
Never free anymore.
We will, no.
Treco's busy. And Jiu-Jitsu is a fad.
No, I've got to go there. I've got to go there. Because, okay, well, you know who's going to win? Treco's going to win because he trains here more than you do. So I have to feel guilty every time he comes into the gym. So if you trained more, maybe I'd be more committed to you.
I'm trying to grow the business.
I know. Well, so am I. And that's where you got to draw the line. But, I want to really go down there and have a roll. And Benny, one of the other coaches here at the gym, he trains at Southern Cross Jiu Jitsu. And he's like, "Well, why don't you come train with me?" And I'm like, well, you should have asked me before Treco did, because Treco's asked me now, because you haven't been. And I'm like, but I said yes to Treco, and I'm not going to go back on my word to him. So anyway, but Benny always has the BJJ up on the TV with all the instructions and whatever, and so I'm always watching, and Benny's like, I can see you watching that. And I'm like, I'm just learning before I get on the mat, you know, and I'll just go down there. And I did a little demo on the other day, well, how I'm going to grab someone and a leg sweep them and whatever, and everyone went, what have you been watching? I'm like, I've been watching Benny's shows. So we'll see. To be continued.
Yeah, one day, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's very addictive, though.
It is.
Yeah.
It's great. Just the thinking side of it. It's amazing. It's like a chess match. Just problem solving.
I cannot imagine you on the floor right now, Shannon, at 120 kilos.
Shannon's coming with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what he promised.
Cool.
Hopefully it lasts longer than the pad sessions I ran you through a few months ago.
Can still throw them all right.
No, we did interval training, Mick. We did 1 minute on, 12 minutes off.
But the 1 minute on.
The fitness is a bit lax these days. Yeah, so I got to really thank Mick, because Mick sort of probably gave me one of the biggest starts in strength and conditioning that I could have had. So I'd been training there for a few years, and I'd always talk to Mick, and we'd discuss different things about fitness and training and all this sort of stuff. And I was really reading a lot of periodization sort of type stuff, and I could see sort of was doing some of that already within the training, and just basically picking his brain, and then he was starting to pick mine. And I was working at Fitness First at the time as a PT, and I wanted to get out of there, and Mick gave me the opportunity to run my business out of his gym, and train some of the fighters there, and that was probably one of the best things. Was awesome. It was a real great learning experience, as far as like just getting to deal with those type of people. And we'd already been sort of training a few people, and training myself, because I was training for fighting at the time as well. And I just really like to thank you for that opportunity. It was awesome.
Yeah.
No, it's a pleasure. And, having done all the martial arts, I just didn't want to be a strength and conditioning coach as well. So I didn't want to start that journey.
He gave you an opportunity to be the master.
And he did. And he did a great job of it. Yeah. He sort of learnt, and I learned a lot off him before. Eventually I said, Shannon, I think it's time. I want you to do one thing, mentor Shane.
Yeah.
He mentored Shane for me, and then he moved out and started his own business and started this journey. And amazing.
Yeah.
And lots of people have come out of Double Dragon over the years and become very successful, and I think everyone will add to that, Shannon. Everyone will add to that. And Dr. Luke, our head sports scientist, trained at Double Dragon, and I remember he was practicing his first nutrition seminar.
Yeah.
Remember that?
He said, Can I come and present? I just got to get used to presenting a bit better. I know what I want to say, but I got to get used to saying it.
Yeah.
So
he was one of the. He's actually. He was one of the first kickboxing coaches. Yes, first class I did, I think, was with Mick, and then Luke took one of the ones on the other night, and I think he was the next one I did, and mainly he was doing his and Luke's classes to begin with.
Yeah.
And Luke was awesome. Like just things I picked up from him that he'd do in the warm up and all that sort of stuff, because he already had his.
There was signs. There was signs back then he was going to be good.
Yeah, 100%.
As a coach and educator, absolutely.
Oh, and he had a passion.
Yeah.
Amazing passion. Yeah. Which is It's been.
So before we wrap up, what are you doing now, Mick?
What am I doing now?
What are you doing these days?
Well, I actually am not part of Double Dragon anymore, other than I'm a coach there. I've gone right back to my grassroots and why I started on this, because I love martial arts. And now I'm just teaching again. So a couple of the boys have bought out the business and pretty much running it as a Muay Thai gym predominantly, but I'm still teaching the traditional martial arts there. I teach the Kung Fu, I teach the boxing, and I'm loving teaching kids. I think there's a lot of shortfalls with children growing up these days.
Yeah.
And the parents are really enjoying me instigating that discipline, and the programs that I've implemented there are really teaching them to, I earn their respect, they earn my respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't get anything for nothing.
Yeah.
They have to earn the T-shirt. So they come there in their green T-shirt and all the kids are in their red Jim Raccoon T-shirt, and they say to their mum, "Oh, can I get a T-shirt?" And they have to come and ask me, and I say, "No, you're not trying hard, or you're not concentrating."
Yeah.
And we have, and I explain to the parents, and it works very well.
I bet it does.
And the
Yeah.
first badge they get is for discipline, and it's for trying. It's not for any skill set.
Yeah.
It's for trying. So you've got a T-shirt and a badge, and that gets them embarked on that journey
Yeah.
of, and then they just want to get the next badge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's motivating.
But I say to them, I buy the badges, you earn them. So there's no giveaways,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
it's great, getting fantastic results, and I'm really enjoying
Yeah, that's great.
that level,
Yeah.
So, still loving teaching the martial arts, teaching the technical boxing. I've got a few of the guys. Few of the guys from the Muay Thai and the kickboxing come over and do some blocks with me, and we just put their both feet on the ground, because it's all principles. My philosophy in martial arts is not to teach you my style of martial arts, is to help you build your style.
Yeah.
And that comes through many aspects and senses that you build, which are balance, movement, sensing distance and gauging distance, and basing yourself, delivering the techniques with dynamics, the summation of velocity, compounding your body movements to get that end result. The punch is not the arm's not the punch. It comes from the shoulder and the hip and driven off the floor, just like you'd hit a baseball or kick a football, it's the same as that summation of velocity. And I love teaching that. I really can look at someone and go, okay, try this. Bang. Oh, geez. Now you've got to learn how to do it continuously,
Yeah.
because, all the time you're training unbalanced situation. And really, it's one of the most, the biggest beliefs I have in martial arts is your grounding, the way you set yourself on the floor. If your stance is too narrow, you can't use the mechanics from your hips. So you need to set your feet on the floor in the right place and drive it. And that's the three elements: the technique, you learn the motor skill, the timing of the technique, and then you add the speed to it. What I say to people with striking is, take everything out of it and start to add what you want. Don't start to try and start with the punch. So, I have a meticulous sort of way of approaching things, and a sarcastic old man's humour, A lot of dad jokes and shit like that you got to put up with.
But pretty much all those principles can be applied to any sport. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Most
the foundation of being good is being good at the basics, isn't it?
It is the basics. And with the fighters, all the successful fighters I've had over the years, and with a couple of the guys that I work with now, every time they compete, we just go back to those basics.
Yeah.
And they'll learn their tricks. They'll learn their little funny little things that they do, and bang people and kick people and spinning heel people and things like that. But the foundation is the crux of it,
Yeah, I remember that. We always used as soon as someone finished the fight,
Back to basics.
straight back on the pad work. Let's drill the basics. Let's drill the jab. Let's get your footwork, all that sort of stuff.
Into
And
range, outer range, check the
just
kick.
re-ingraining it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Re-ingraining
that's my principle. It hasn't
groundwork.
changed over the years, and I think people who are training for the Olympics would do the same thing. They'd periodise in the things to get to that end result. That's why the state champions are before the national champions. The national champions are before the regional champions. The Commonwealth championships before the Olympics, and world championships are before the Olympics, because there's that periodisation that was set up to the Olympics, and I learnt that as you did a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's building those little blocks of things that are going to complement the end result.
While we're on periodisation, let's talk about conditioning for fighters a little bit, because I know when I was there, we did change things up a fair bit.
Yes.
We tended to get some real good results. I remember one of the best ones is we used to do that Friday strongman conditioning. We'd go down the park, and we had three or four of the boys who were training for a fight, a couple of kickboxers, a couple of MMA fighters. Yeah. And we had a boxer that came along, and we were doing prowler work.
Yeah, prowler work.
And I wasn't coaching the boxer, but I was coaching the other three guys.
Yeah.
Boxer was doing.
Manny was one of them, I think. Yeah. Machine.
And we were pushing the prowler, and I said, "Okay, do the run, take it at 75%, stop here, walk back, rest.
Yeah.
And then the boxer was going hell for leather. He was destroying all the other guys the first week. Second week he was destroying. I'm saying, just take it easy.
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit more next week. Push it a little bit harder. And then by week 4, the boxer was destroyed, and the other guys were just leaving him for dust.
Yeah.
Because it was just that accumulation over time, like not destroying themselves every session, but doing enough to stimulate a bit of an adaptation, and then coming back next time doing a little bit more and sort of adding it on top.
And I'd have to say that's what I did learn from you through those things and your strongman training and how you used to build for those sort of things and how we were doing the strength and conditioning that you see all these popular things now. We were doing that 15 years ago. You know, all that sort of training. We had ropes, we had all that sort of stuff. We were flipping tyres.
We were doing CrossFit before it was actual CrossFit.
Before they thought of it, look, and that's the things I've learnt. You know, you go through life learning some more, is that you know, you don't. It's not the training that actually gives you the improvement. It's the recovery.
Yeah.
If you don't have the recovery from the training, so you have to apply yourself to a level of training that you can cope with, then you recover from that, and then you can adapt yourself to going. And it's a progressive thing. And I must admit, I learned a lot of skills, and I love that shit. You know, you know, you were a beginner, come to the gym, and then in the end you're teaching me, and that was fantastic, you know, because I didn't want to be the strength and conditioning coach, but still nice. You do train a lot of fighters and that sort of thing, and so it's good to know.
So what's your principles now on your foundation about where fighters should start and what they need, and as far as getting their strength and conditioning up, what should they be doing?
Well, they should be being coached by a good coach who can teach you how to lift functionally properly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you learn to organise your body to resist things. So you structurally you can understand how you got to organise your body, and really you need to progressively work up to big body movements and get stronger. The foundation for athletic performance is strength. Firm believer in that. I think Luke did those tests, that study on that, and I told him before, I said, mate, this is a no-brainer. I can tell you now.
You don't need to research it, mate.
I don't need to research it, I'll tell you now.
Saves 12 weeks.
So he did that, and that became obvious. My son was one of the people in that study, and it really showed.
Dean improved leaps and bounds too.
He did, and he learned a lot from here, and he carries it out of here. You know, he's great. He still does all his maintenance, and he does his squats and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So we really struggle with the latest in sports science, strength and conditioning, spreading the word to the combat athletes. For example, combat athletes are still running every day as part of their conditioning. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Mick will know. You don't run in the ring. I do think obviously a cardio base to start with at some point is you need it. You need lungs. Do you know what I mean? But why waste the time running when you could spar, or you could hit a bag, or you could do something that's more of an interval base that's going to give you some short, sharp power. 12-round boxers, yes, there has to be that overall, just that time endurance, being in the ring, because they're just trying to score points for 12 rounds. So they need a lot higher, an endurance component than most other fighters. But if you're an MMA fighter or you're a kickboxers, is it still 3-2s or whatever, or 3 2.5s?
That varies.
Yeah,
it varies.
But
Muay Thai. Yes.
You got to do damage in those 3 rounds.
You do.
3 to 5 rounds.
You don't have time to accumulate points like a 12-round boxer. So it's going to be different again between obviously the disciplines.
There's a lot of damage. Yeah. They're out to damage you. It's a sprint event more so.
Yeah, and with MMA, you're getting up, you're getting down, you're punching. It's not just a steady, linear, cyclical thing. So you do need some base, but your time's probably better spent doing something do your conditioning specific. I mean, that's nothing better than specificity. My theory on strength and conditioning for the majority of athletes that are not a strength-based athlete is the strength and conditioning just makes you last longer in your sport. That you last longer in your sport, you become better. That's the key factor. Like, I remember one of the big things when I started training Hayden, he goes, I wish I had known this when I was kickboxing, like not when I retired, because I would have been able to last a lot longer. I would have come out of fights with a lot less pain. I would have been able to have more fights, and I think that's probably the biggest thing. Yeah, okay, like strength, people will argue, yeah, but this guy doesn't do weight training and he hits like a freight train, and that's, yes, there's guys that just genetically hit hard, and yeah, okay, with Luke's study, we know that the bench press will improve punching power as well, but also too there's got to be a technical component to it. But I think the biggest thing to take away with it is building resilience in that body. Like Mick said, your ability to absorb force. Like, stronger people are harder to kill. That's just the way that's just the way it is, you know what I mean? So I think that's sort of my theory on it. What about you, Mick?
Well, I think with a fighter, say we're talking about fighting, so with a fighter, most definitely you look at every aspect you can get to improve your fighting. It's a you know, like people who haven't a career in fighting or becoming a professional fighter are going to have to get better, because other people are going to get better around them. If they don't get better, they're going to get their ass kicked, you know?
Yeah.
So you're always looking for those aspects which can improve it. And I think, as you mentioned about the running, it always made me scratch my head why Thai boxers would do 10 kilometres in the morning when they're nice and fresh, and it's got nothing to do with their fighting. You know, I think they have more the ability to fight well because they start so young. When you're a kid, you can do anything. When you get to 15 and you're 16, 17, and you've been doing that for 10, 12 years, you've got to be able to fight, you know, getting beaten up and running will get you fit. There's no doubt about that. But is it the best use of your energy?
100%.
You know, to me, with the guys, I suggest that they do the long distance run to get that blood volume going through. Probably not over 145 beats, you know, keep it low, and treat it as an active recovery. Treat it as an active recovery session rather than a run. Go along the beach, look at the ocean, smell the breeze, have an active recovery and enjoy it, you know, because
you don't need to do it every day.
You don't need to do it every day, no, I'd say once a week, you know. And the same thing with the stairs. You know, a couple of the boys were getting serious in fighting, and I said, mate, you know, Shane was running a good program for them, and I said, look, honestly, if you want to be any good at this, do me a favour, go and run up those stairs once a week and come back and tell me what you think, you know. And they came back and said, Jesus Christ, they're hard, aren't they? They never get easy.
The old Como stairs.
The old Como stairs,
wasn't it? Didn't you have to be, originally it was like you had to be able to do 6 of them before you could fight? Something like
that's
that.
Yeah. And you had to, and we timed them, and we did them all at different, you know, intensities and cadences and stuff like that. Changed it around, short sprint first, all that sort of stuff. You know, when Ian was doing the MMA, we used to go down to the. We wanted a bit more volume in his training, so we used to go down to the horse gymkhana thing and do short sprints from the prone position, and then go back up some stairs, and then we'd go over the road and up another set of stairs and and get him to sprawl on the side of the road and all that sort of stuff, you know, and just building that endurance base in, and you know, and people have got to understand themselves as well. You can build that good fitness, but as I say, my one of the statements that I made, one of my many, is you can do a 100-metre sprint in, say, 14, 15 seconds, but you can't do a 200-metre sprint in 28 seconds. So don't do your 100-metre sprint in the first 30 seconds of a fight. You know, you know, so you have to learn to utilise your energy as well, you know, get that intensity, and that's what experienced fighters do. They learn to use it when they need it and have enough in the tank, and you know, you could, like you say, you can build more, and that strength base allows you to build more.
100%.
Allows you to build more, you know.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on today, Mick.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
It was a pleasure having you and interviewing you.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll probably need a part 2.
And Haysam as well.
You'll need me back for my own interview.
A VIP.
Do you want to ask me now? You've asked everyone else in my team. Fucking hell.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Thanks, guys.